What could kill an entire ship's crew without leaving a single wound? What could terrify experienced sailors so much that even after death, their faces remained frozen in expressions of absolute horror? Why were the final words ever received from the ship? All officers, including the captain, are dead. And only moments later, one final sentence: I die. Then silence. The radio signal disappeared forever. What really happened aboard the SS Ourang Medan? Poisonous gas? A secret military operation? A mysterious cargo? Or has the world spent more than 70 years believing a story that may not have happened exactly as we've been told? Even today, no one can answer that question with certainty, because almost every piece of this mystery raises even more questions. And that is exactly why the story of the SS Ourang Medan remains one of the most chilling maritime mysteries ever told. It all began somewhere in the Strait of Malacca. Several ships intercepted a desperate SOS message. At first, it sounded like any other distress call. The radio operators immediately began writing down every word. But within seconds, they realized this was unlike anything they had ever heard. The message read, "All officers, including the captain, are dead, lying in the chart room and on the bridge. Possibly the entire crew is dead." Then there was a long pause, as if the person sending the message was struggling to stay alive. And finally, the last words came through: I die. Silence. The transmission ended. Forever. Imagine hearing those words while sailing in the middle of the ocean. Somewhere nearby, there was a ship. A ship where, perhaps, not a single person was still alive. No explanation. No details. Just a few terrifying sentences, followed by complete silence. What would you think? A deadly disease? Poison? Pirates? Or something far more terrifying? The nearest vessel immediately changed course. Its crew had only one goal: reach the mysterious ship as quickly as possible. But none of them could have imagined what they were about to discover. As they approached the SS Ourang Medan, everything looked strangely normal. The ship wasn't sinking, there was no fire, no visible damage, no cries for help. It drifted quietly across the sea as if nothing had happened, and yet something felt terribly wrong. No one appeared on deck. No one answered their calls. Not a single movement could be seen anywhere aboard. Finally, a small boarding party climbed onto the ship. They were prepared to find injured sailors, signs of a violent struggle, perhaps even survivors. But what they found instead would become one of the most haunting scenes in maritime history. As the first sailors stepped onto the deck, they immediately realized something was terribly wrong. The ship was completely silent. No voices, no footsteps, only the sound of the wind and the waves. They cautiously began searching the vessel. Almost immediately, they found the first body, then another and another. Within minutes, the horrifying truth became clear. Everyone was dead. The captain, the officers, the radio operator, the sailors, even the ship's dog. But that wasn't the most disturbing part. None of the bodies showed any visible injuries. No blood, no bullet wounds, no knife wounds, nothing. It was as if death had struck every person at the same moment. Then the boarding party looked more closely at their faces, and what they saw sent chills down their spines. Many of the crew had their eyes wide open, their mouths frozen in expressions of terror. Some bodies were lying with their arms stretched forward. In their final moments, they had been trying to protect themselves from something they couldn't escape. But from what? What could frighten an entire crew to death? And why had no one managed to save themselves? There were no signs of a struggle, no evidence of violence, no damage that could explain what had happened. Everything looked as if death had simply swept across the ship. The rescuers continued their inspection. Eventually, they made their way below deck, and that's when some of them noticed something unusual. It was incredibly hot inside, far hotter than it should have been. The air felt heavy, almost difficult to breathe. At first, they ignored it, but only moments later, everything changed. A powerful explosion shook the ship. Flames erupted almost instantly. The rescuers had only seconds to react. They rushed back to their boat, and just after pulling away, a second, even larger explosion ripped through the vessel. The SS Ourang Medan began to disappear beneath the sea, taking every piece of evidence with it, taking every possible answer, and perhaps burying the truth forever. But did something supernatural really happen aboard that ship? Or was there a perfectly logical explanation that no one had considered? Almost immediately, new theories began to emerge. Some believed poisonous gases had escaped from the cargo hold. Others suspected a secret military shipment. And some researchers went even further. They claimed the entire story might never have happened at all. So, which theory comes closest to the truth? And why, more than 70 years later, are historians still arguing about what really happened aboard the SS Ourang Medan? So, what really happened aboard the SS Ourang Medan? For decades, researchers have searched for an answer. And one theory appears more often than any other: poisonous gas. According to this idea, the ship may have been carrying dangerous chemicals. If those substances leaked, they could have released toxic gases, invisible, odorless, and deadly. The crew might have had only seconds to react. That would explain why there were no signs of violence, no struggle, no injuries. Only lifeless bodies, left exactly where they had fallen. It could even explain the terrified expressions on their faces. But there is one problem. No official cargo records have ever confirmed that such chemicals were actually on board. So, was there another explanation? Some believe the ship was secretly transporting military cargo after World War II. Highly dangerous materials that were never meant to appear on any shipping documents. If something went wrong, the entire crew could have been exposed without ever knowing what was happening. It sounds convincing, but once again, there is no solid evidence, only speculation. Then there is perhaps the most surprising theory of all. What if the SS Ourang Medan never existed, at least not in the way we've been told? Some historians have spent years searching through shipping records, insurance documents, port registries, official archives, and many of them found almost nothing. No verified registration. No official investigation. No conclusive proof that the incident happened exactly as the famous story describes. Could newspapers have exaggerated the events? Could details have been added over time? Or did crucial documents simply disappear? Even today, no one knows for certain. And perhaps that is what makes this mystery so unforgettable. Because whether the story is completely true, or partly legend, it continues to raise the same haunting questions. Why was that desperate radio message sent? Who transmitted the final words, "I die"? Why did the ship reportedly explode just as rescuers arrived? And why, after so many decades, can no one give a definitive answer? Perhaps the greatest mystery isn't what killed the crew. Perhaps it's how a single story has continued to puzzle historians, sailors, and millions of people around the world for generations. Was the crew killed by poisonous gas, a secret military cargo, or is the entire story one of history's greatest maritime legends? Let us know your theory in the comments, because one thing is certain: some mysteries refuse to sink, even after the ships themselves are gone.